Hey y'all, this is Amanda and welcome back to my Texas Zone 8A garden, and today we're going to be adding 4 new perennials into the side and front gardens. Okay, so a couple of y'all have actually asked about my notebook because I have a notebook that I carry around with me, and you might see it in a lot of the videos in the background. And basically I write out like what I'm going to do for each video. I used to wing it like 2 years ago. I just used to wing every video. Now I sit down and I write out what the video is going to be, all the steps, what photos I need to take, what different shots I need to take, everything like that, because it allows me to have a checklist, which is really good. And when you're shooting videos every day like me, you're gonna need a checklist because you're not gonna remember everything. So for those of you who asked, that is what this is. Okay, so today what we're gonna be doing is adding in some additional perennials to the garden. This is the time of year in Texas Zone 8A where we're in our fall. Now fall, it's 85 degrees. That's our fall. So it's a really good time to put in perennials. We still have about 50 days until we are going to get our first frost. So literally this is it, this week. This is the week that I'm putting in perennials, and then after that, we're done. You wanna allow your perennials about 4 to 6 weeks of being in the ground before your first frost or freeze to allow it time to grow roots and to kind of get used to its environment prior to a freeze coming through. A lot of times if you plant a perennial like right before a freeze or a frost, something like that, it will damage it and most likely it might not come back. So this is the best way to do it, at least 4 to 6 weeks. A lot of times you can do 6 to 8 weeks, whatever works best for your particular zone. For mine, I don't like to do, past about 4 to 6 weeks. Now, putting in perennials at this time in Zone 8A does not mean that you don't have to water them because it's quote unquote cooler outside. We're still in a massive drought in our area, so I will be checking on these on a daily basis and making sure they're well watered and that they're good to go through the rest of this drought. Typically in the month of October is when we get a lot of rain. There is no rain in sight for the month of October in our area. This is just a massive drought in our area. We did have a burst of rain at the end of August, which was lovely and really kind of rejuvenated everything. However, prior to that, we had gone 60 days without any rain, which was rough. And now, goodness, we're already like another 30 plus days without rain again. So yeah, hopefully rain will be coming soon. But let's talk about the perennials that we're gonna be planting today, and then I'll show you where we're gonna put them. Okay, we're gonna be planting one of my favorite perennials today, and that is sedum. This particular sedum is from Callaway's, and I got it for $14.99, and it is called Sedum Autumn Fire. I have a lot of sedum in my garden. It does really well. It's a really great drought tolerant plant, and it's excellent for cut flowers. You can see it this time of year, it really starts to bloom. This guy colors up really deeply red. I love the structure of it because it looks, it's like a succulent, which is very cool. But it's a perennial. It comes back year after year. It's done really great in our hard freezes that we've had as of late, the last couple of years. It's had no issues, and it's just come back bigger and bigger every year. So we are going to be planting this today. Next, we are going to be planting a Turk's cap, which was my father-in-law's, one of his favorite plants. He loved the Turk's cap with red. This one is actually pink Turk's cap, which I've been wanting to grow for quite a while. And it is a perennial in our area. It is sun to part sun. And I should have told you the sedum is full sun. It doesn't do well in shade. This one is sun, part sun, shade. It is drought tolerant, so it doesn't need a lot of water. It goes to about 3 to 6 feet high and 6 to 8 feet wide. But I will say this kind of guy, after this year, when it comes back vigorously next year, which it will, I'll cut it to the ground every season after that. It is hardy in zones 8 to 11. Its bloom time is midsummer through fall, which, you guys have heard me talking about in some of my last videos. I've been trying to do a lot more summer color because a lot of my color has been front-ended. So this is a really great way to add summer color in really hot places like our particular zone. And it says, blooms resemble unopened hibiscus flowers or little turbans. Very tough and adaptive perennial, attracts butterflies and bees. And it really does. Pollinators love this guy. Okay, the next one I got doesn't look great. It looked prettier early on, but it's starting to go dormant, which is why I need to get it in the ground ASAP. This is from Callaway's, and it is a CARDONNA SALVIA. And I got it for $20, and When I bought it, it was full green, the whole thing, but this is absolutely beautiful. It's full sun to part sun. It handles wet spots fine, but it also handles dry spots. It's deer resistant for those of you who actually deal with deer. I don't have that in my particular area. It is about 15 to 18 inches wide and about 24 to 30 inches tall, and it's hardy in zones 3 to 8. And it has lots of spikes of intense violet blue flowers, which is what I'm wanting. One great thing about salvia is it can give you a flush of flowers and then you can trim it back and it'll give you another round of flowers. So that's something I really like. Also very drought tolerant and great for this particular area. And the last one, you're gonna laugh. It doesn't look great right now, I'll say, because it's been in the pot and I've had it for quite a while. This is a rose mallow or rock rose. And I said I was never gonna grow a rock rose again because of the way it spreads. Yeah, I need it to spread. I have a particular area against the west side of the house that really has a hard time growing stuff, and I've got some bulbs over there that do fine, but I would like to put this over here so it can fill the space when the other things aren't doing as well, specifically during the heat of the summer, because I can tell you that this particular flower is going to put off all these bright, beautiful pink flowers in the heat of the summer in the drought area. I don't even have to run drip to the sky. It's gonna do great. So I am gonna absolutely use it. The last time I planted this, it took me 2 years to get rid of it afterwards. So I hope I don't regret it, but I feel like the spot I've chosen is a good spot for it, if that makes sense. So it's gonna be tucked among some like lily bulbs back behind a shrub in an area right up against the house that has a lot of heat. So I think this is gonna be perfect for that spot. Okay, so let me place these and then I'll talk about where they're going and then we'll go ahead and get them planted up. Okay, we're gonna start with the Cardonna sage, and it's actually, or the Cardonna salvia, it's actually gonna take the place of this sage plant right here. I've had it here a couple of years. It's been moved a couple of spots. I think I've mentioned it before that I don't really enjoy it in this spot. There's a lot of dead that comes along. I don't think it's very attractive for this one particular area. So I would like to put something more bold with all these beautiful purple flowers. I think that'll really tie in with all the purple heucheras that I've got planted here now as perennials. So I'm gonna go ahead and dig this guy up and pass him on to a neighbor. Let's go ahead and knock that out. Okay, all that sage makes me think of Thanksgiving. I smell like Thanksgiving right now. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and clear the space out for the Cardonna salvia. I think it'll fill this corner, anchor this corner really, really well. Feel like a big amount of, whew, look at that. That's clay right there. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is pull out my salvia right there. I'm gonna take this big clump of clay. I'm just gonna let it go, y'all. Okay. Okay, we're gonna add in some plant tone. Salvia is just a great perennial for an area like this. I think it's gonna work out great right here. Okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and top this with a little bit of mulch. Okay, and then of course we want to water it in really well. When you're watering, you want to water around the outside edge of the plant where you're putting all of the soil back, and it's going to help move the soil into any kind of air pockets that may or may not have been left. All right, let's talk about where the Turk's cap is going to go. Okay, I got to climb back here. So since the Turk's cap can get pretty stinking tall, up to 6 feet tall, I am going to plant it back here towards the back portion of the border. This is where I have lots of weeds. I'm pulling up weeds right now while y'all are listening. This is where I have lots of weeds, but also I have this crepe myrtle that I have a love-hate relationship with it. Kind of love it, kind of hate it. Didn't like the tree form. Ended up cutting it to the ground, making it more bushy. Have an idea for kind of an architectural structure that I might be adding to this crepe myrtle. But for the meantime, I think if I go ahead and put this Turk's cap back here, I think that it is large enough and bold enough to hold its own against the crepe myrtle. And then I also think that in summer, when the crepe myrtle is not in bloom, the Turk's cap will be, so which would be really, really nice. So Turk's cap does great with a wide variety of soils. I'm still going to go ahead and add in some of the plant tone in here. And where's the Turk's cap? There it is. I'll go ahead and pull it out, but I think this crepe myrtle is red, and I think this bright salmon pink color would just be absolutely beautiful with the Turk's cap over here. So I think this is a good place to go for it. Okay, and I really like it's going to anchor this wall. Hopefully it'll cast enough shade where back here I won't get as many weeds either. You guys can also see some of my mums are all starting to come into bloom. Okay, and while we're over here, just for future reference, I've been considering creating a sedum hedge across this front area. I've thought about doing, you know, like the lemon ball sedum down low, and then doing a line of maybe Coral J sedum behind it, maybe a double stacked sedum hedge. This area does fine, but I think it would be really fun to have something like perennials and then be able to do some like wild annuals like the Incredible Sunflowers behind them. Anyway, drop me a link below, or drop me a comment below. Let me know what you think about doing a sedum hedge on the front curve of this garden. Okay, this is the area where I am wanting to plant the rock rose, right back over here. And the reason being is this area gets so hot, y'all, incredibly hot. And I've tried a number of things here over the years. They have not done well. So I felt like I needed to put something back here that was gonna give me some great color, but that I wasn't gonna have to like stress about all the time to, is it alive, is it gonna make it, do I have to water it a ton? And so this is the solution. Now, rock rose is one of my plants that I don't love it. It's definitely not one of my favorite plants because of the way it spreads. However, if it's spread across this wall area and back behind the planter, I think I would actually really love that. I think that would be absolutely beautiful. And so that's kind of the goal with it. I've also wondered if I would be able to train rock rose to grow up a trellis. So that might be an experiment I try on this over in this area. Maybe in the future when it's bigger and more established. Okay, so then in addition right here, I'm going to be planting the Autumn Fire sedum. Okay, things I'm looking for when I'm planting sedum. I want to put it in an area that's not going to be waterlogged, which is definitely this area. This area gets nice and dry, works out really well. I'm also not going to apply any kind of fertilizer to the sedum. It doesn't like fertilizer. It likes poor quality soil. It likes dry soil. So if you have a really tough, you know, full sun area that you need something that can just go to town, sedum. Sedum's the thing for you. You should definitely try sedum out. Okay, so I've got some big roots over here. This little bug is just driving me crazy. From the pugster butterfly bush, which is actually something I'm considering moving in the future. Just haven't gotten around to it. All right, so I've got my sedum. Loosen up my roots just a little bit, but not too much with the sedum. And I'm going to tuck it in here. Remember, no fertilizer with it. Okay, so I really like this. This verbena right here is Meteor Showers verbena. It went to seed and has come back this season. So I'm actually letting a lot of these flowers right now go to seed, and I'm hoping it fills in kind of wild because it did really great in this space right here. So you can imagine the pugster, the purple verbena that's very whimsical and flowing, the pink rock rose kind of growing through everything, the sedum, which starts off green and then fades to pink and then white, or excuse me, dark red. Then I also have some perennials over here. This one right here is a green twister echinacea. Got some white pearl yarrow, more of the verbena. I've got more echinacea back there that's called super duper paradiso echinacea. So it's really cool. I've also got some bulbs back in this area. I want this area to be kind of very wild and loose and whimsical. That's the overall goal for this area right here. I've always felt like this area is a little stagnant, so I'm really excited that I'm able to start adding some things in and allowing it to just kind of go crazy and really enjoy itself. It's still super humid. That's just where I live. It's so funny hearing other people talk about their zone 8As. And they don't have the level of humidity that we have in this particular zone 8A. I'm in Wylie, Texas, and North Texas. So anyway, it's October 7th. It's still hot, super hot. So anyway, okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed seeing me plant those 4 perennials, hearing me talk a little bit about those perennials as well. All of those perennials grow really great in this zone, and all of those perennials were planted with the idea that they'll do really great in a drought. Because like I said, we haven't had rain since the end of August, and prior to that, 60 days before that is when we had rain. So we've been experiencing a lot of drought in our area, and it is something to really consider. Most of my gardens, I've switched to drip lines at this point because it conserves water more. It makes my life easier, and it gives a more direct water to the base of the plant, which is what's needed. I've also, I love all of my plants that, are beautiful cut flowers, but it is good to start changing some things out to include more drought tolerant perennials. So if you have a favorite drought tolerant perennial, be sure to drop that down below. Give us a comment, tell us what zone you're in, and tell us what perennial you love for your zone. All right, you guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. As always, she's a mad gardener or decorator or anything else that she wants to be. Thanks, y'all.